How's it going, everybody? I'm Mike and George, Any Wilderness Bushcraft, here on the Manhan River in Easthampton, Massachusetts. And this is my camp, Château d'Hiver. Come on, I'll show you around. This is my first lean-to I built down here, the original Château d'Hiver. Got my raised bench, got my A-frame chair, little basket of nice stuff to make fire with, fire pit, everything you need. Got a little bit of dried firewood here, nicely seasoned. Some fat wood, jute twine, old bow drill set, a few of these pine shoulders, really nice to have to throw on the fire. They burn hot and bright. A little bit of birch bark, good to start the fire up with. A little basket I made for it all. Take it around camp if I feel like moving. Out front of the lean-to here, there's a dead tree we cut down. Biggest tree I've ever tackled with hand tools. Dropped it straight down here. Built a bench out of part of it. Over here it's hard to see, covered up in snow, but there's another outdoor fire pit, another cooking range. Probably won't use it again until spring. And a woodshed over here, just a little rubble lean-to we knocked together. A few tools. Got my rake. Post hole digger. This is a real good one. Get it right in, and then the curves help you open up your hole. Little whisk broom, mallet, and a shovel. And I found this shovel blade in the hill next to Pleasant Street that's all full of garbage behind me here. Here we've got Lefty's Garage, built by my buddy Jim, my friend and your hero, Lefty in the Woods on Instagram. He built this entire shelter with just a hatchet and a big knife, no saw, no cordage, no nothing. And we won't go any further into that. Don't want to invade on the guy's privacy. But here it is, Lefty's Garage. Pretty sweet. So that's the main area, my lean-to, Jim's lean-to, woodshed, outdoor range, and kind of meeting area. We're gonna cruise right back now to my pride and joy, the yurt. Let's go. Come on in. As I started moving towards making shelters with indoor fires, I learned that the quality of your firewood becomes super important. So this is all maple that was part of my old bench. So I cut it green over a year ago, and I've just had it all since then. And since I rebuilt the bench, I had it all aside. And this is really good firewood. It's clean, dry burning, seasoned for a year in the dry. Just finding whatever piece off the ground, whatever piece of wood you find hanging is fine when you're outside. But when you make a fire somewhere where you're going to be sharing the air with the fire, you really want something that's going to burn hot and bright, high BTUs, something like a seasoned maple, seasoned oak. You want to stay away from softwoods, from pine, from hemlock. They get too smoky and have kind of toxic fumes when you're right up in them like this. feather stick's a really good intermediary step between your kindling and tinder, or your tinder and kindling stages. Helps really just bring the fire from whatever little fast burning stuff you got onto the real sized fuel. And it's close enough. That's a really good looking one. I need to Instagram that too. Everybody loves macros. So to make sure I get a proper airflow in here, I'm gonna put 2 sticks down to start. And that'll be the very bottom of my fire. They're a lot bigger than anything else I'm gonna be working with here. Next layer is gonna be of kind of a medium size, maybe dime size or so. Do those right across. There's our next layer. And a couple of these feathery sticks. So to help get this fire started, I've got my little tinder kit here. I don't always carry one. 3 seasons I usually don't bother, but in the winter it's nice to have. I've also got my new fire piston from bushcrafttools.com. Big shout out to Dustin and the boys over at Hunter Gather Cook. Really cool stuff they got going on in the UK over there. Show you how this guy works just in a minute. Got a little tin of char cloth. That'll help me get the fire started with this piston. Got a stick of fat wood mailed to me from pinefirefatwood.com. And this is the sort of thing that if you're a little unsure about your kindling, if you're a little unsure if the wood's a little wet, having a stick of fat wood like this can just extend your flame so much. And I can do a quick demo of how this guy works anyway. So I've got a little piece of this fat wood right here, and I've got a little piece similar sized of this dried maple I'm using as my main fuel. And I just thought I'd do a quick demonstration of how incredibly well fat wood will take a blaze. If we try to light the maple, even here on the feathery little end, you can see that while it wants to catch, it's really not going to go anywhere. Got a nice little flame there, but then once it transfers to the bigger wood, it's just gone. And this is good dry firewood. It should catch just fine with a good sized flame. But now if you look at the fat wood, and now this is wood from the stumps of pine trees. It's loaded with resins and tannins. You can see it's like gasoline. It just wants to go. And even once it transfers itself over to the larger piece of the wood, the blaze just gets hotter and hotter. So, you absolutely got to get a fire started. Fatwood's an excellent resource to know how to find and know how to use. And this stuff's just great too. pinefirefatwood.com, check them out. So here's my tinder pouch. This was made by my buddy Jim at Lefty in the Woods on Instagram. Busted open here. And I've got an extra ferro rod. Another little bit of Jim's work, nice striped maple handle that I carved myself, and he glued in there with pine resin based glue, so very neat little piece of kit. Also some birch bark. This is chaga. This is a mushroom that takes tinder very easily, also makes a tea. And horsehoof fungus, another fungus you can use for fire starting and prolonging an ember. I also always have some jute twine with me. This muscles up into a really nice nest, and I'll be using some of this today. Also birch bark and more jute. That's pretty much it. So I'm gonna get my nest put together. I'm gonna make an ember with my fire piston here, and I'm gonna get a fire going. I'm freezing. I'm just breaking this apart to make a nice fluffy ball. The key to a good tinder bundle or bird's nest is surface area and oxygen. So you don't want anything that's too tight and dense. You want everything to be as fluffy and broken up as possible. So that'll be my fine tinder right in the middle of it here. I'm gonna curl off a little of this fat wood to liven up the mix. Even if it gets wet, it still works great. And then one more. A little piece of jute right around it to tighten everything up, and that'll burn nice too once it's all going. Now that I got that nice little pocket there, I can kind of stuff in some bits of birch bark and whatever I've got around. There's my little tinder bundle. So in one end of my fire piston here, there's a little char cloth stored up. Right in there. Pop a bit of that out. There we go. Pack it up in the other end. And that looks a little something like that. And get the cap right back on there, nice and tight. Keep everything dry in that little chamber. And then it's very important that the whole plunger be nice and clean so that it achieves the suction it needs. So I'm just going to clean it up with the bag a little, especially around the seal. Then in the other end, there's some lubricant, looks like just Vaseline, and that goes right around the ring. There. And now, got a nice, you can see it doesn't even want to stay in there. There's a good amount of compression going on inside the tube. Now I want to get a piece of char cloth ready for the transfer. Good sized little chunk here. And if you haven't made char cloth before, I suggest doing it. It's super easy, simple. You take an Altoids tin, punch a hole right in the middle, fill it up with maybe half a handkerchief or t-shirt or whatever cotton material you feel like. You cook it on some embers until the steam stops coming out of it, and you have a highly combustible, easy to take a spark from flint and steel from a fire piston like this. And the action on the fire piston's insane. It blew my mind the first time I did it. Let's see if I can get it. Almost. And there it is. Just from compression alone. And I'm going to take that little ember, transfer it to some more char cloth. If I could even pop it out. No. Let's touch and go for a second there. Alright, so now we got a nice big fat ember. I lost it. Alright, so I'm not quitting. I'm not giving up with the fire piston. Proof of concept achieved. But it really is very cold here, and I'd like to have a fire going. We're running low on battery. So, barring the fire piston success, I just remembered something awesome. This thing comes with a backup plan. Which is a ferro rod. Right there in the handle. Awesome thought from the guys at Bushcraft Tools for that. I haven't used this particular rod before, but I'm in a hurry to have a fire. I'm tired of being cold. See how she works. Throws a nice spark. I'm just going to shoot a spark right down here into this bit of char cloth. And barring that, as I mentioned, it is really very cold. You can fart around with neat fire starters all day long. And on a beautiful day, I like to fart around with a neat, interesting fire starter all day long. But it's really very cold, and it felt like having a fire. Morris Kahansky says, no woodsman in his right mind would go out into the bush, I'm paraphrasing here, no woodsman in his right mind would go out into the bush without matches or a lighter, and anybody who doesn't have matches or a lighter has got no business using a primitive method anyway. So we got the kettle on now, got some coffee started in the yurt, getting ready to just warm up and chill out a little bit. No puns intended there. Hey, I hope you enjoyed the little tour of my camp. This is Micah George, Any Wilderness Bushcraft. We'll see you in the woods.